Hey everyone, and welcome back to Elon Musk Land. Since the first human-made object was sent into space back in 1942, space technology has significantly improved. SpaceX, one of the most iconic private space companies globally, recently went a step further and announced that its Raptor engines would receive a considerable upgrade. If this is successful, space travel might see a new dawn and change forever for the better. With the increasing world population and the world becoming more and more life-threatening due to human activities, companies like SpaceX aim to establish human settlements on Mars. Such a significant upgrade might be a starting point that will enable many people to get there to Mars so that they can start to colonize it. Numerous tests have been done before even the red planet is inhabited, and such an upgrade will aid in that. This plan, if successful, might be a future home for a large number of human beings. SpaceX has been working to enhance its rockets over time to make them more dependable. The Raptor, one of SpaceX's rocket types, underwent a major update recently. In today's video, we're going to go further into this jaw-dropping upgrade that SpaceX rockets will receive. We're also going to look at how this may change the future of spaceflight in general. What are the expectations for this new invention? Stick around until the end to learn all there is to know about the new Raptor engine. Before we start though, if you like this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on any new updates in the future for such content as this. Since the first person, Yuri Gagarin, orbited the planet in 1961, astronauts have tried to push the boundaries of how far they can go into space year after year. Having that in mind, engineers have been moved to design more powerful engines that can get rockets a lot further into space. The Raptor, a SpaceX rocket engine, is one of the new inventions that has been produced as a consequence of this challenge. The engines can power rockets to transport people to Mars 55 million kilometers away from Earth. The primary goal of this spacecraft will be to transport people to Mars and build settlements there. Starship SN20, a SpaceX Starship prototype, landed at the company's launch site in August. With a height of 395 feet, 120 meters, it's a gigantic beast. The hardware requires enough power to get it off of the ground due to its size, which is why it's going to be equipped with the newly designed engine. The ship is presently undergoing a series of tests at SpaceX's Texas headquarters, where they are just relocating to. The whole thing was brought to life in a video published by SpaceX on their Twitter page with the caption, "First firing of a Raptor vacuum engine integrated onto a Starship." The successful firing marked another step for Elon Musk, SpaceX's CEO. If the new engine design is successful and performs like it was meant to, it's going to propel spacecraft into the depths of space. If that happens, Musk's goal to establish a city of 1 million people on Mars by 2050 might actually be a reality. According to one of SpaceX's tweets, the new improvement will boost the performance of these vehicles by a solid 15%. The increased performance will make it simpler to transport things required to build a settlement on Mars. It will also transport 100 tons of mass to Mars every journey, implying that SpaceX would need to make about 10,000 trips to the red planets so that they could build this metropolis. 3 of these new engines will be used to power the Starship, which will then accomplish these trips to Mars. Now you may be wondering what we're talking about when we refer to a Starship, because we're the channel that never leaves everything to the imagination. So here's what you need to know about the Starship. Starship consists of 2 reusable 2-stage rocket vehicles with a stainless steel hull, consisting of a super heavy booster and a spacecraft, also known as Starship, which is planned to transport people and cargo to low Earth orbit, the Moon, and ultimately Mars. The rocket's substantial size and low capacity need a high power output, which these newly developed Raptor engines will provide. A total of 35 Raptor engines will be installed in the final fully operating rocket. That is a lot of power to get you to Mars, particularly when you're carrying a lot of cargo and people. The detachable Super Heavy will have 29 engines to break it down even further, while the Starship will have 6. Out of the 6 Raptor engines found on the Starship, 3 will be vacuum optimized. To put it another way, these 3 vacuum optimized engines will have a bigger nozzle that is specifically intended for smoother and more efficient space propulsion. This test fire was a warm-up for the real thing, which is due to be ready in early 2022, and will most likely make its maiden orbital trip at that time. Starbase will launch SN20, and a super heavy booster is known as Booster 4. About 20 miles, 32 kilometers from the launch site, the rocket will splash down in the Gulf of Mexico. If all goes according to plan, SN20 will make it to orbit and splash down off the Hawaiian island of Kauai. SpaceX hopes to fly that historic test flight as soon as possible, but the timing is out of its hands. The FAA is undertaking an environmental review of Starship's orbital launch location in the United States. The FAA just issued a draft of that assessment, but more work remains. The agency will take public comments on the draft until November 1st, after which it will integrate those comments into the final report. There is a significant difference in size between the prior Raptor engines and the new ones. This isn't a trivial alteration. The vacuum variation is massive. The engine's full size has one key benefit: it will function better in space with higher space pressure changes. We'll utilize NASA's explanation in this video to help us comprehend this notion better. Rocket engines provide thrust by releasing hot gases via a nozzle. Let us return to the books for a moment and recall the third Newton rule of motion, which says that when a force is applied to an object, it produces an equal and opposite response. When hot rushing gases are forced into the nozzle, an opposite reaction force is formed, which propels the item forward, which is the rocket. For further explanation, let's take a look at another organization, the Mars Society of Canada, which further explains why rocket engines should be built in the same manner as SpaceX's Vacuum Raptor. Supporters of this design say that expanding the nozzle size drives the gas out across a more extensive surface, nozzle boosting thrust. Increased thrust increases the rocket's power output and consequently its range. However, there is one drawback to increasing the nozzle size. When expanded gas is pushed out of the engine, it has lower than the ambient air pressure. Because air pressure is higher than the hot air expanding out of the gas exhaust, which is exiting the machine, it pinches the exhaust gas and pushes it away from the nozzle walls. Engines having overexpanded nozzles may actually minimize thrust loss owing to increased air pressure. Any astronaut, however, would not advise you to do so because expanding nozzles would generate a flow of separation, which will harm the engines or perhaps cause the whole rocket to explode. To overcome these problems and acquire maximum performance, SpaceX was moved to design the Vacuum Raptors. Vacuum Raptors go without saying that they will not be affected by atmospheric pressures. Thanks to this new invention, SpaceX won't have to keep adjusting their nozzles, making them bigger and bigger to get the best performance. It would endanger most of these rockets due to the practical limits that the nozzle measurements lie in. Since many people never understood how it's possible to fire this engine that they've built at sea level without it encountering any issues. Elon Musk said that their new engine had never had any problems working, even though it had expanded nozzles. The engine has a very high chamber pressure that allows it to be fired at sea level without suffering from flow separation. So what's the difference between power with this variation and the others? One metric is a particular impulse, which is the amount of force generated by a given unit of fuel. Musk said in September 2019 that the Vacuum Raptor model might attain a specific impulse of 380 seconds compared to the 350 seconds for the sea-level Raptor variant. Every added advantage that comes with the new engine helps when it comes to establishing humanity as a multi-planet species. After successfully being fired without issue, the engine modification has shown some promise. SpaceX has distinguished itself from other commercial space enterprises by establishing new standards for rocket architecture, and it will only be a matter of time until this project is entirely operational. By 2022, the company expects to have ready-to-launch rockets to circle the Earth. Let's hope for the best that SpaceX's goals come to fruition. If successful, it's going to be a massive step forward to Mars colonization, and the possibility of humankind finding a new home on a planet other than our own. Do you want to be a part of the people that are being transferred to Mars? I want to explore and get a feel for the experience. While you're still here, go ahead and click on one of these two videos on your screen. See you there.